Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Trey, and welcome back to Let's Talk Finances. So, if you ever wish that there were easier ways for you to build wealth without sitting at the computer hours and hours checking the stock market, well, your wish has come true. And guess what? I'm a prime example of someone who had absolutely no experience in investing. I was in a ton of debt with no clear path on exactly how to build millions of dollars or build generational wealth through investing. And I'm here to tell you, if I did it, so can you. But before you click off of this video and thinking that this is just another get rich quick scheme, let me explain to you exactly what it is that you can start using to build generational wealth, and that is index funds. Plenty of people shy away from investing due to fear, but much like everything else in life, we get over those little fears by educating ourselves. It's experience and the knowledge beforehand that allows us to divulge ourselves into a particular activity and get better and better at it. So what exactly are index funds? Index funds are one of the easiest, most practical, and safest ways for you to invest. Index funds also allow for you to invest in the largest US as well as international companies with very low fees and little risk. Index funds are investment tools that follow a benchmark, such as the S&P 500 or even the Dow Jones. Putting money into an index fund allows your money to be invested into all the companies of your choice that make up that particular index or benchmark. But let me help you make a little bit more sense of this. Please do not forget to hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and also don't forget to subscribe, as it definitely helps this channel to grow so that I can continue making content just like this to help you along your investment journey. So let's say you have a bag of gummy bears. Oh, and by the way, if you've never had these in particular, you should definitely try. Let's say that you have, damn it, you have orange, you have grape, you have apple, watermelon, grapefruit, but let's just say you don't particularly care for all of them, you just want some of them, right? Let's say you want orange, grape, and apple. Orange, grape, even apple. Instead of sitting here and trying to choose each individual gummy bear that I like, why don't I just go buy the whole bag, right? And that's exactly what an index fund is. Instead of sitting and trying to choose each individual company that I want to be invested in, why don't I just invest in every single company? And that's what index funds are. Many investors want to see their money grow 40 to 50% overnight, which is possible. However, you cannot make those type of gains without assuming a very large amount of risk. But because they want those large gains, they gravitate towards that single stock investing. But check this out. Only about 18% of those single stock investors even match the returns of an index fund. And remember, index funds are safer, less volatile, easier to manage, and one of the most important aspects, they are built for the long term. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the 3 different types of index funds that you absolutely should be looking into investing in 2022. And that's right, even with a possible market crash looming over our heads, I still invest continuously, often, and regularly. The first index fund that you should be considering investing in is my personal favorite, and that is a total stock market index fund. The best that I've seen thus far within the past 3 to 5 years is Vanguard's total stock market index fund, VTSAX, as well as its ETF equivalent, VTI. I'm going to be linking down in the descriptions below for those of you who are looking for either Charles Schwab's or Fidelity, so you can click on that and actually see a full breakdown of those particular total stock market funds for the broker of your choice. But what is a total stock market index fund? Well, I would say that the best definition for it is diversification, because when we say a total stock market, every tradable company within the US of A. 4,139 companies to be exact. Now, what makes a total stock market index fund so great? You're going to be invested in about 80% of S&P 500 companies, and then the rest are broken down. That 20% is going to be broken down into small and mid-cap companies. Now, Keep in mind that Tesla at one point was a small, then a mid, and then it became a giant in the S&P 500. So keep that in mind when you never mind those small and mid cap companies because you think that they don't amount to anything. Just remember, when you're getting into investing and you're looking at trying to put index funds into your portfolio, diversity should always be one of the fundamental principles that you're looking at, right? So that essentially means you don't want to be so heavily invested in one area. So you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. Diversity is one of the key principles that you should be looking at. And a total stock market fund is exactly that. Heading into 2022, even with volatility in the market, a total stock market index fund is going to be a great core fund for you to be putting into your portfolio if you haven't done so already. The second fund that I'm going to be referencing is an S&P 500 index fund. Now, S&P 500 index fund actually is the most popular benchmark or index that investors look to track, or should I say even beat for that matter. Now, S&P 500 index fund consists of 500 or sometimes a little bit more like 508, 515 of the most successful and largest companies within the United States. As a matter of fact, the great Warren Buffett himself even invests in Vanguard's S&P 500 index fund. Now, the best one to date within the last 3 to 5 years that I've seen, and this is not being biased at all, is Fidelity's S&P 500 index fund. But Fidelity kind of changed the game back in 2018, and the way they did this was by introducing their zero expense ratio index funds. So for that reason, I'm actually going to be listing two, and that is FNILX as well as FXAIX. The first one being one of those zero expense ratio funds and doesn't have that long of a track record, being that it was created in 2018. But nevertheless, it is a great fund that tracks essentially the S&P 500. FXAIX being a bit older with a bit longer track record, but it has like a 0.03 expense ratio, which isn't that much. Actually, it's 0.01%, I just checked. Being that Fidelity doesn't have their own exchange-traded funds, however, you can invest in Vanguard's or one of the other brokerages' ETFs, and in this event, I would say that the best ETF to go with is VOO, which is Vanguard's S&P 500 ETF. Now, for those of you who are wondering, hey, what's the difference between an index mutual fund versus an ETF? To be quite honest, the holdings are the exact same. The performances are essentially the exact same. The main differences are the time of day of which you can trade them, right? With an ETF, you can actually trade it throughout the entire day like a stock, so long as the market is open. However, with an index mutual fund, you can't do that. Index fund, exchange traded fund, both are great investment tools for you to be putting your money into. And remember, 80% of a total stock market index fund is actually made up of an S&P 500 index fund, so you cannot go wrong with either one. All right, so the third and final fund that you should be looking at investing in, and I kind of switched it up because you have to switch up your investment strategy to a degree as times progress. So in 2022, along with these core holdings, I say that you should be investing in an emerging market fund. Now, let me give you the textbook definition of what an emerging market fund is. An emerging market fund refers to a fund that invests the majority of its assets in securities from countries with economies that are considered to be emerging. These countries are in an emerging growth phase and offer high potential return with higher risks than developed market countries. A lot of the times, these countries that we're referencing are going to be China, India, Brazil, so on and so forth. So essentially what you're doing is you are investing into companies generally internationally that have high probability of success. So they're already on the up because their economy is booming and it doesn't look like it's going to be stopping. Now, the kicker to this is that with high gains comes higher risk. So that's another fundamental principle I always tell the individuals that I'm coaching that you should be paying attention to. What is your particular risk tolerance. If it's low, then an emerging market is not something that you want to be invested in. However, if it's mid to higher risk tolerance, then definitely an emerging market would be one that you want to look at. Now, one of the best ones that I've seen for the last 3 to 5 years is Vanguard's Emerging Market Index Fund as well as ETF. VEMAX for the Index Mutual Fund, and its exchange traded fund version would be VWO. But with these emerging markets, I just really need you to remember that yes, you have a higher probability of making gains, but you also are at higher risk. Just remember that you need to have a fully diversified portfolio and be able to stomach that risk should something happen like the 2020 COVID market crash. As always, I want to thank the men and women of this country who have served and continue to serve. We greatly appreciate you all. So until the next video, let's talk finances.